The desperate signal captain, Sarah Chen, stood on the bridge of the human exploration vessel Steadfast, watching the stars drift past through the main viewport. 3 years into their deep space mission, her crew had mapped 17 new systems and made first contact with 4 alien species. It was routine work, but important for humanity's expansion into the galaxy. The Steadfast was not a warship. Built for exploration and diplomacy, it carried scientific equipment, cultural exchange, materials, and a crew of 200 specialists. Sarah had commanded merchant vessels before joining the exploration corps, and she preferred the peaceful nature of this work to the military campaigns of her earlier career. Dr. Marcus Webb, the ship's xenobiologist and communications expert, looked up from his station with a puzzled expression. Marcus was one of Earth's leading experts in alien languages, having spent decades studying the communication patterns of dozens of species. His thin frame and grey hair made him look older than his 50 years, but his mind remained sharp as ever. "Captain, we're receiving something unusual," Marcus said, his voice carrying a note of concern. "It's an encrypted transmission, but the encryption is unlike anything in our databases." Sarah walked over to Marcus's workstation, where streams of data flowed across multiple screens. The signal appeared as complex patterns of light and sound, pulsing with an almost musical rhythm. "Where is it coming from?" Marcus pointed to a star chart on his secondary screen. "The Kepler 442 system. But Captain, that system is under quarantine by the Galactic Council. No ships are supposed to enter that area." Sarah frowned. The Galactic Council was the loose alliance of spacefaring species that maintained peace and order across known space. Quarantine zones were established for various reasons, usually involving dangerous phenomena or infectious diseases. "What's the official reason for the quarantine?" "Biological contamination," Marcus replied, pulling up the council records. "According to the files, a plague outbreak occurred in that system about 5 years ago. The entire region was sealed off to prevent the spread of the disease." The encrypted signal continued to pulse on Marcus's screen, its patterns hypnotic and somehow desperate. Sarah had learned to trust her instincts during her years in space, and something about this transmission felt wrong. Not dangerous, but urgent and pleading. "Can you decode it?" she asked. Marcus rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "I can try. The encryption is sophisticated, but there are mathematical constants embedded in the signal that might serve as a key. Give me a few hours." Sarah nodded and returned to her command chair. Around her, the bridge crew continued their normal duties, but she could sense their curiosity about the mysterious transmission. The Steadfast had encountered many strange phenomena during their mission, but an encrypted signal from a quarantined system was something new. 4 hours later, Marcus called Sarah back to his station. His face was pale, and his hands trembled slightly as he worked his controls. "Captain, I've managed to decode portions of the signal. You need to hear this." The bridge speakers crackled to life, and an alien voice filled the air. The words were translated by the ship's computer, but the emotion behind them was unmistakable. It was fear, desperation, and a plea for help that transcended language barriers. "To any who can hear this message," the voice began, "we are the Cathara of the Third World. Our people are dying, not from disease, but from hunters who come in the darkness. They take our young, harvest our crystals, and leave death in their wake. The Council believes we are contaminated, but this is a lie told by our killers. Please, if there is mercy in the galaxy, help us. We are few and we are weak, but we do not deserve to die in silence." The transmission repeated the same message in several different languages, each repetition carrying the same desperate tone. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. This was not a plague outbreak. This was genocide, hidden behind a quarantine. That prevented anyone from investigating. Lieutenant Commander Jake Harrison, the ship's tactical officer, spoke up from his station. "Captain, if this is true, someone is using the quarantine to cover up mass murder." Sarah looked around the bridge at her crew. These were good people who had joined the Exploration Corps to help make the galaxy a better place. They had taken an oath to protect innocent life wherever they found it. But entering a quarantined system would violate Galactic Council law and could result in their ship being impounded and their crew imprisoned. "Marcus, can you tell how old this transmission is?" Sarah asked. Marcus worked at his console for several minutes. Based on the signal degradation and the astronomical data embedded in the message, I estimate it was sent approximately 6 months ago. "Captain, if the Cathara were in trouble, then they might all be dead by now." The bridge fell silent. Sarah closed her eyes and thought about the decision she was about to make. As captain, she was responsible for the safety of her crew and the success of their mission. But she was also human, and humans had a long history of standing up for those who could not stand up for themselves. "Set course for the Kepler 442 system," Sarah ordered. "Maximum speed." Jake Harrison turned in his chair. "Captain, the Galactic Council will not look favorably on this decision." Sarah met his gaze steadily. "The Galactic Council isn't here, Jake. We are. And if there are innocent people being murdered while the galaxy looks the other way, then someone needs to act." The Steadfast changed course, its engines humming with increased power as they accelerated toward the quarantine system. Sarah sent a message to Earth Command explaining their intentions, knowing that by the time any reply reached them, they would already be committed to their course of action. Dr. Webb continued analyzing the Kithara transmission during their journey. "Captain, I'm learning more about these people from their language patterns. They appear to be a peaceful species with a strong emphasis on community and artistic expression. Their references to crystals suggest they might be life forms." 3 days later, the Steadfast dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Immediately, their sensors detected signs of massive destruction. Debris fields floated where space stations had once orbited, and the surfaces of several planets showed the scars of orbital bombardment. "My God," whispered Sarah as she stared at the devastation on the main screen. "How many people lived in this system?" Marcus checked his calculations. "Based on the size of the debris fields and the planetary infrastructure, I estimate the population was around 50 million beings." The crew of the Steadfast absorbed this information in stunned silence. 50 million people, an entire civilization, had been wiped out while the galaxy believed they were simply quarantined due to disease. "Captain," called out Ensign Lisa Park from the sensor station, "I'm detecting life signs on the 4th planet. The readings are faint, but definitely there." Sarah felt a surge of hope. How many? Hard to tell from this distance, but maybe a few thousand. "Captain, there's something else. I'm picking up artificial structures on the planet's surface that match the crystalline patterns from the Cathara transmission." "Take us in," Sarah ordered, "but stay alert. Whatever did this to the other planets might still be in the system." The Steadfast approached the 4th planet cautiously. As they drew closer, their sensors revealed a world that had once been beautiful but now bore the marks of terrible violence. Cities of crystal and light had been shattered, leaving only fragments of their former glory. But in remote areas, small communities still survived, hidden in caves and underground shelters. "Captain," Marcus said excitedly, "I'm receiving a transmission from the planet. It's the same language as the distress signal." The message was brief, but filled with wonder and hope. "Unknown vessel, are you the ones who heard our call? We are Zara Kethbram, speaker for the remaining." We had given up hope that anyone would. "Come." Sarah took a deep breath. "Open a channel. Let's see if we can help." Before Marcus could comply, alarm klaxons began blaring throughout the ship. Jake Harrison's voice cut through the noise. "Captain, multiple contacts dropping out of hyperspace. Large ships, military configuration. They're surrounding us." On the main screen, 12 massive vessels appeared, their hulls dark and predatory. They moved with the coordinated precision of a hunting pack, taking positions that would prevent the Steadfast from escaping. A new voice came over the communication system, cold and mechanical. "Human vessel, you have violated the quarantine of this system. Prepared to be boarded for decontamination procedures." Sarah recognized the voice. It belonged to the Vrex, a species known for their militaristic culture and aggressive expansion policies. But the Vrex were members of the Galactic Council. They were supposed to be the good guys. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth vessel Steadfast," she replied. "We are responding to a distress call from the inhabitants of this system. There is no plague here, only survivors who need help." The Vrex commander's laugh was like grinding metal. "There are no inhabitants, human. This system was sterilized to prevent the spread of contamination. You will submit to boarding, or you will be destroyed." Sarah looked at her crew, seeing the same realization in their eyes that she felt in her heart. The Vrex were the hunters mentioned in the Cathara message. They had committed genocide and used the Galactic Council's own quarantine protocols to cover their crime. "All hands, battle stations," Sarah ordered. "This is not a drill." The Steadfast might not have been a warship, but it was human-built, and humans had learned to build things tough. As the Vrex ships closed in, Sarah made a silent promise to the Cathara survivors on the planet below. Earth had heard their call for help, and Earth would answer. Earth's answer. The Steadfast shuddered as the first Vrex weapons struck its shields. Sarah gripped her command chair as the lights flickered and damage reports began flooding in from all sections of the ship. The Vrex hunting fleet had surrounded them with military precision, their weapons designed to disable rather than destroy. "They want us alive," Jake Harrison reported from the tactical station. "They're targeting our engines and weapon systems, trying to force us to surrender." Sarah's mind raced through their options. The Steadfast was outnumbered 12-1, and while human engineering was robust, they were not equipped for this kind of fight. But surrendering meant abandoning the Cathara survivors to their fate, and Sarah Chen had not come this far to give up now. "Evasive maneuvers," she ordered. "Take us into the planet's atmosphere. Use the gravity well and atmospheric interference to break up their formation." The ship dove toward the planet's surface, its hull glowing red-hot as it cut through the upper atmosphere. The Vrex ships followed, but their larger size made them less maneuverable in the thick air. One by one, they were forced to break off their attack runs to avoid crashing into the planet. "Captain," Marcus called out from his station, "I'm receiving multiple transmissions from the Cathara on the surface. They're offering to help us." On the main screen, Sarah could see crystalline structures rising from the planet's surface, glowing with internal light. The Cathara cities that had seemed dead and broken were coming alive, their remaining inhabitants emerging from hiding places deep underground. What can they do? Sarah asked. According to our scans, they have no weapons technology. Marcus's eyes widened as he translated the incoming messages. Captain, they're not offering weapons. They're offering sanctuary. The Cathara have the ability to generate powerful electromagnetic fields from their crystalline biology. If we can get close enough to one of their cities, they can shield us from the Vrek sensors. It was a desperate plan, but it was their only chance. Sarah ordered the Steadfast to land near the largest surviving Kithara settlement, a cluster of crystal spires that rose from a deep canyon. As the ship touched down, the air around them began to shimmer with electromagnetic energy. The Vrek ships circled overhead like vultures, their sensors confused by the Cathara interference. Sarah knew it was only a temporary reprieve, but it gave her time to think and plan. Jake, what's our combat capability? She asked. The tactical officer checked his readouts. Shields are down to 60%, but our weapons are still online. We have enough firepower to hurt them, but not enough to win a straight fight. Sarah stood up from her command chair and walked to the main viewport. Outside, she could see Cathara beings approaching the ship. They were beautiful creatures, standing nearly 3 meters tall with bodies that seemed to be made of living crystal. Their movements were graceful and fluid, and they communicated through patterns of colored light that pulsed through their translucent forms. Open a channel to the Cathara, Sarah ordered. A new voice came through the speakers, musical and harmonious. Captain Chen, I am Zara Keth Prime, speaker for the remaining. We have waited long for someone to hear our call. How may we serve those who would help us? Sarah felt a surge of emotion at the formal courtesy in the alien's voice. Despite everything they had suffered, the Cathara still showed dignity and grace. We need to find a way to defeat the Vrek ships. Can your people's abilities do more than just hide us? There was a pause, and Sarah could see the crystalline beings outside the ship pulsing with rapid patterns of light as they communicated among themselves. Finally, Zara responded. Our people were created to shape energy and matter through harmonic resonance. We have used these gifts to build and heal, never to destroy. But if it means saving our children, we will learn new songs. Before Sarah could respond, Jake's voice cut through the conversation. Captain, I'm detecting a massive hyperspace signature approaching the system. Something big is coming. Sarah's heart sank. More Vrek ships meant the end of any hope for escape. But as the new contact dropped out of hyperspace, her despair turned to amazement. The arriving ship was enormous, easily 3 times larger than any of the Vrek's vessels. Its hull was painted in the blue and white colors of Earth's space navy, and its weapons arrays were unmistakably human in design. This is Admiral Rosa Rodriguez, aboard the battleship Indomitable, came a familiar voice over the communication system. Captain Chen, Earth Command, received your message. Sorry, we're late to the party. Sarah laughed with relief and joy. Rosa Rodriguez had been her mentor at the Naval Academy, and the Indomitable was one of Earth's most powerful warships. But more importantly, where one Earth battleship appeared, others would follow. Admiral, it's good to see you, Sarah replied, but we're still outnumbered. The Vreks have 12 ships, and they've been systematically exterminating the Kithara. Rosa's voice grew cold and dangerous. Is that so? Well, Captain, it seems the Vreks need to learn a lesson about humanity's opinion on genocide. The Indomitable opened fire without warning, its massive guns lighting up the space around the planet. The Vrek ships, caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a human battleship, scrambled to respond. But human weapons technology had advanced significantly since the last major conflict, and the Vrex quickly discovered they were outmatched. 2 Vrex ships exploded under the Indomitables' opening barrage, their hulls unable to withstand the concentrated firepower of human plasma cannons. The remaining Vrex ships began to retreat, but they found their escape routes blocked as more human vessels dropped out of hyperspace. This is the Earth Third Fleet, Admiral Rodriguez announced on an open channel. All Vrex vessels will surrender immediately or be destroyed. You have committed genocide against a peaceful species under the cover of a fraudulent quarantine. Humanity will not tolerate such actions. The Vrex commander's voice came back over the communication system, no longer cold and confident, but desperate and angry. The Cathara were a threat to galactic stability. Their technology could have been weaponized. The only threat here is you, Sarah replied, her own voice filled with righteous anger. You murdered 50 million innocent beings because you wanted their resources. The battle that followed was swift and decisive. The human fleet, comprised of 23 ships, including the Indomitable, surrounded the remaining Vrex vessels. The Vrex fought desperately, but human tactics and technology proved superior. One by one, the Vrex ships were disabled or destroyed. During the battle, something remarkable happened. The Cathara on the planet's surface began to sing. Their harmonic frequencies resonated through the electromagnetic spectrum, creating interference patterns that disrupted Vrex weapon systems while leaving human technology unaffected. The crystal beings had indeed learnt new songs, and their melodies of war were beautiful and terrible to behold. When the last Vrex ship surrendered, Sarah walked outside her vessel to meet with Zara Kaith Prime in person. The Cathara speaker stood among the ruins of her once great city, her crystalline form pulsing with patterns of gratitude and sorrow. Your people have given us back our future, Zara said, her voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. But we are so few now. Most of our kind have joined the great harmony. Sarah reached out and gently touched the alien's crystal surface, feeling the warmth of life within. You're not alone anymore. Humanity doesn't abandon its friends. In the months that followed, human engineers worked alongside Cathara artisans to rebuild the shattered world. The Cathara's ability to manipulate matter and energy on a molecular level, combined with human determination and technology, created wonders that neither species could have achieved alone. The Galactic Council was forced to acknowledge the genocide and implement new oversight protocols to prevent such atrocities. The Vrex species was banned from council membership and confined to their home system under strict supervision. But the most important outcome was the alliance between humanity and the Cathara. The crystal beings, once numbering in the millions, now counted only in the thousands. But they were alive, and they were free, and they had found in humanity a kindred spirit that valued life above all else. Sarah Chen was promoted to Admiral and given command of the new human Cathara Joint Defense Fleet. On her desk, she kept a small crystal given to her by Zara Kethbrim. When light passed through it, the crystal sang with harmonies that spoke of hope, friendship, and the promise that no cry for help would ever go unanswered again. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson. Humanity might come from a death world, but they used their strength to protect life wherever they found it. And when Earth's children called for help, the Deathworlders would always answer.